Welcome everyone to our skills seminar every Friday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. London time, from now until ILTA. I'm especially excited today about building workflows and understanding the difference between them and agents, and reminding this is a seminar, it's not a webinar. It's going to be interactive. There will be some polls, there will be some breakout rooms, there will be Q&A, and you're welcome to write your questions in the chat. Just write with all caps question before to help the moderators see those, because there's going to be a lot of chatter. The session is being recorded, but the chat and the polls are not showing on the recording. So anything you say in the chat will stay in the chat. And with that, I'm going to jump straight to Yannic, Timothy, and Anne from DeepJudge, who will blow my mind.
Cool. Yeah, welcome everyone, and it's very great pleasure to be here. I'm Yannic, with me, and Timothy here. We'll be also coming back to them later, but we really just wanna dive in. And yeah, a reminder, this is interactive, so please let us know any questions that you have or anything. So our goal today, and let's clear something out right here. Our goal today is to dive into largely topics like agents, topics like workflows and all of that, because we feel like there's a lot of confusion out there onto what exactly things are, and what they mean, what the words mean, and we just hope to give some inputs on that. So yeah, we have today prepared about first section, a bit diving into this topic, like what do we understand under the word agents, like how can they be useful and so on. Then we have a bit of a hands-on demo where we are going to build an agent and just demonstrate how that's being done, and also show you a couple of other ones. And then lastly, we have planned a few breakout sessions, and those also include or will introduce a competition where we want people to come up with ideas for agents, ideas for processes that could be handled by agents nowadays. So we'll try to keep it short-lived and keep it engaged. Very briefly, who we are. So DeepJudge as a company, our goal is to connect law firms to their own data. And that can take many forms, but we have two main components. One is a search engine. So that search engine, we point at internal systems of data. So think document systems, client systems, matter systems, and so on. And all of this we do at really large scale. We bring obviously the latest and greatest of AI, and we keep all of the internal compliance, data governance, and access permissions in place so that you can holistically use it. The second part is what we call the workflows platform, and this is mainly what we're going to also show today. The workflows platform is an orchestration platform for generative AI capabilities, including agents, so today's topic. So the workflows platform allows you to build, orchestrate, and manage agents for your organization. Again, if these words are all a bit, through each other, we'll get to what exactly they mean in just a bit. But our approach to generative AI is transparency, customizability, and the ability for you to really shape the experience that your people have with them. So I want to sort of take a step back and look at just a timeline, like a history of generative AI, especially in our field, and how that came about. So, and that history starts, now obviously from a research perspective, it doesn't, but that history starts largely with sort of what we call the birth of LLMs. Yeah, so largely we we see sort of the 2022 and ChatGPT as the moment when large language models really came onto the spotlight. From a research perspective, this was in the making for at least 10 years beforehand, but that's largely when they came in. And what we saw back then is just kind of simple prompting, simple having conversations with these models. They still exhibited frequent hallucinations. They still were sort of a playful thing that one could see the future of, so to say. But then very quickly that became into what we now call prompt engineering. So people actually putting thought and putting work into how to work with these large language models. So the age of prompt engineering, we typically, and this I wrote here, 2023 to 2024. So after people have gotten familiar with the technology, we sort of saw people taking it to the next level. Prompt engineering, largely, you may know a few techniques there, right? But we see these products appear that we typically call GPT wrappers. And they're called wrappers because, well, one way of looking at it is here on the right side, you kind of see what's happening. So when you use a GPT wrapper product, what they will do is they will take your prompt, which here is here in the middle, and they'll sort of stick it between their prompt. So they'll put a bit of text before and a bit of text after and sort of wrap whatever you give them, they wrap it and they send that to the large language model. So this is sort of prompt engineering as a service in a way. And there are many of these products, and they do very good jobs for a large degree, but they're not the state that we want to get to. So the next step, people figured out a very crucial thing about large language models, and that is, yes, contexts are getting longer. The large language models can treat more data at a time, but it's not very smart to always cram everything into one prompt. So prompts have been getting longer, and you may have seen people on social media even share like, this is the best prompt for doing, you know, whatever. And it will be like some super long prompt with all kinds of instructions, and you are an expert document summarizer and so on. But people have realized if you just try to cram too many things into a single prompt, so you try instructions and formatting and edge cases and pre-processing, all of it goes into one prompt, it's not going to turn out well. So the next stage, maybe we can call that the age of use cases, is really when people realized we need to break problems down and into individual steps. So not cram everything into one prompt, but now when you submit anything to any sort of generative AI product, what actually will happen in the background is that there's a multi-step process running. So a first prompt is run against your data, and that will sort of give an output, and then that output is fed into a second prompt and then a third prompt. So for example, in a document summarization case, you might first let the large language model draw an outline of a summary and then feed that outline into a second large language model, which then fills in the individual parts, and then feed that into a third large language model, which sort of takes this and makes the overall summary. So people realized, much like humans, if we split work apart, it's gonna lead to a better outcome. We also see processing of files taking off, of images and so on, intermixed with text. And we see early forms of retrieval-augmented generation appear as well. But still, this is kind of not the way or the place we want to get to. So the final stage, or at least for now, is that age of agents. And the question, and the question is still obviously happening to this, what are agents? What do we understand under agents? And what can they do for us? There's no clear answer here, and we want to be very straight with you. for now, when people talk about agents, they could mean pretty much anything. But what we've tried to do is we've tried to carry together a few commonalities across agents that you can use to orient yourself on what exactly is an agent. So the first tenet that we found is that agents generally do work. And by that, we mean they perform some kind of unit of work that used to, a human used to do before, but now a autonomous process takes on that work and performs it. It doesn't have to be end to end. It doesn't have to be, oh, you replace, full everyone's fear like their jobs are going to be replaced, but some meaningful piece of work that you can give to a machine and that it does by itself. So we're looking for productive applications, that means. The second thing is that agents use tools. And this is a very new thing in the realm of large language models. So far, we've always sort of given a prompt or multiple prompts to the large language models. But with agents, this sort of flips around. Very often nowadays, agents have the ability to use tools on your behalf. So to use external systems to perform their work. Here we have a few examples of such tools. So, for example, agents can perform user interactions. So they can interactively go back to the user and ask, hey, does this look good to you? Or they can ask a question during their work so they can continue to work. What they can also do is they can read and write files nowadays. And obviously in our context, very important is all the kind of work product files that we're talking about. So agentic systems are able to both go and grab external files and write back external files. Agents can do things like network requests, which means they can go to other systems and elicit information, or they can, for example, send email around. So agents can autonomously, on your behalf, interact with all kinds of systems. And then lastly, agents can go and gather information using search engines. You may know this if you use public tools, you may know this as tools like browsing or deep research or things like this. But essentially, it always works the same, that the agent is connected in the background to a search engine, and that search engine allows it to go and fetch all kinds of relevant information. And this piece, we want to just spend a minute on to deepen this out, because we feel like that, especially in the context of law firms, is a crucial piece here. So if you think of a search engine, you have to ask yourself, what is a search engine good at? And a search engine is really good at looking at a huge amount of data. So here, like, for example, 1 billion documents, matters, client data, and so on, like huge amounts of data, terabytes, and giving you in an instant the 10, right, the first page of Google, the 10 most relevant things to your inquiry right now. That's what people use search engines for. And it's no wonder that Google has, risen to be one of the most important applications of our, of the entire planet, because locating relevant stuff from giant amounts of information is just so crucial. On the other hand, what are large language models good at? Well, large language models they're okay at performing a task. Like, let's say you wanted to draft a purchase contract. If you just go to a large language model and say draft a purchase contract, they're going to be okay. But when they're really good is when you give them like 5 really good examples, really on point examples for what you want to do right now. You're saying, hey, large language model, look, here are 5 really on point examples of purchase contracts that are really pertaining to what I want to do. Please use them as a reference and sort of fill in the details of my current situation. So large language models are really good at taking a handful of very relevant context and processing that in a very nuanced way. And hopefully you can sort of see how the two fit together quite naturally. So the search engine is very good at looking at terabytes and giving you 10 good things or 10 really relevant things. And the large language model is really good at taking 10 really relevant things and processing them in a nuanced way. So putting them together is an enormously interesting combination, especially when you think of your internal data, right? So a good search engine combined with large language models can make all the difference in terms of how you access internal data. And so not coincidentally, that is the two parts of our product that we offer, because we feel this is the most direct and most precise way of connecting firms to their own internal data. So what we sort of hope you take away from this is that search is that critical layer, not just for your humans, but also for your agents. And that's so search engine being like the main tool that agents can use. Then the last point here is that agents have autonomy. And also this is very new in the space of large language models, because typically you give one prompt and you get the response back, and then you do something with that. But with agents, we suddenly have the agents themselves doing all kinds of things without you intervening or without you directly causing it. So agents can perform multiple steps of tasks, and they can plan ahead. And you may have seen that in sort of LLM deployments. They can plan, they can make a plan. Agents can do things in parallel, so they can branch out and do many things at the same time. And they can do things again and again, so they can refine themselves. Agents can make decisions, so they can evaluate data and then decide, do I want to go on or not? And agents can communicate with other agents. So when you have multiple of these, you can even hook them together either manually. So you can say, okay, now move to the next agent, move to the next agent, or you can even let them do this autonomously. So these are just sort of the tenets that we found make up agents. So any system that fulfills these typically nowadays is called an agent or an agentic system. And if we look back at these areas, at these different ways, we don't want to necessarily say that one is better than the other. Like prompt engineering works amazingly well for a lot of use cases. Even simple prompting works super well. But so what we want to do and what we have done is we have implemented what we call a platform, our workflows platform, which can cover all of these things. So it can cover very simple large language model interactions. It can cover prompt engineering use cases, but it can also cover agentic use cases. So sorry, I'm participating in the poll. So for our use case, and again, the words mean different things in different places, but for our use case, a workflow is kind of a thing you can build on our platform. And that workflow can be very simple, like a simple prompt engineering workflow, or that workflow can be a full agentic, autonomous tool using, user interacting, decision-making, autonomous application that does a whole bunch of work. And what we want to do right now is we want to show you one of each. And the first that we're going to show you is one of the more prompt engineering type workflow. So it's going to be a rather simple one, but we'll show you how we actually build it. One of the things about our workflows platform is the importance of customizability. So we've built this platform not just to give you some of these workflows, but we've built this platform for you, and by you, I mean like innovation teams, to customize and to really shape the experience of your people. So I have Timothy with me right here, who is our main workflow architect here in the team, and we're going to build a very straightforward workflow that we call Write Like Me. And just so that you get the idea, like the strategy, we have some kind of a raw message, like a message that we want to send somewhere as an email, for example, but we want to adjust its tone and its style according to a reference document. So the message should at the end sound like the reference document in terms of style. We know we could just stick this into one prompt, but we know splitting work up, dividing it up into subparts is often a better strategy than just doing a single prompt. So our strategy is going to be at the same time, in parallel, we're going to use a large language model to describe the style of this document. And we're also going to extract some typical sentences of this document. And we're going to do this at the same time because they can run independently. And then we're going to bring these together with the raw message into a final large language model that's going to integrate all of this and hopefully give us that final output. So I would say it's game time. I'm going to hand over to Timothy here. Just confirming that you can see the workflows platform
Yes,
now.
we see.
Okay, excellent. Perfect. All right. So cool. I'm going to hand it over here.
All right. I'll refer to Yannic when I go silent because writing and speaking can be challenging sometimes. So to create a new workflow, we'll give it a name. Well, we already have a suggestion. That's nice. Write Like Me. So what we'll need here is, as Yannic already described, we'll have the text input. That's kind of the content we want to rewrite. And along with that, we will give it some raw kind of reference file. So we call this our reference documents. And Yannic, this is the point at which talking becomes challenging.
All right, I'm going to take over. Yeah, so obviously, eventually, the goal would be to connect this to the search engine to automatically pull in reference documents of a given person. Or maybe you want to have a workflow that always writes like the most well-spoken partner or maybe the most successful one in the firm. But for now, we're simply going to supply a document as a reference. What we're gonna do here is we're going to prepare the different pieces that we'll need, and we do have the prompts prepared, but here is where we enter the system prompts and so on. So this here is the part where we effectively do prompt engineering, right? We are defining our different prompts, we're defining how the data flows, which LLMs to select, and all of that. You can see that all of this is done in kind of a no-code environment. And again, the idea is not that the lawyers come here, but the lawyers should never see this. Whom we give this to is innovation teams, AI teams, legal engineers, knowledge management teams. And once we build this workflow, we can then publish it and share it with the rest of the firm. And so you can hopefully see how that's useful. It's useful because we only have to sit down once to build the workflow, and we can really work on it until we get it well, until we get an actual, good output. And then we can just make that available to the firm. So you don't have to teach everyone to become a super prompter, right? You don't have to rely on the people doing the AI handling well. That's good for simple prompting, but as soon as it gets more complex, what you really want to do is you want to have a prepared experience for people that they can just use at the press of a button and go along. So you can see maybe in the background, right, that the structure that we are targeting towards is like that diagram we saw before. So we are building different large language models that feed into each other. And so if we just stop for a moment, right, we have the inputs on the left-hand side, the text input and the reference document. We have the two large language models that extract quotes and style. And then we feed all of this into a final large language model that ultimately is tasked with integrating all of this together. So
Yeah.
this,
Yannic, while you're still describing this, we have a question, which is what, for Mark, what is a system prompt versus a prompt?
that's an excellent question. So a system prompt is typically the very first thing that is sent to the large language model, and it is usually used to provide overarching instructions. So in a system prompt, you would generally define the context and the parameters of a conversation. And so, for example, what people do in the system prompt is they tell, hey, we are going to have we're going to do some rewriting of text today. I want you to be as formal as possible, or I want you to be as funny as possible, or things like this. So the system prompt is really meant to so here you can see this as an example that we tell in the system prompt, you are a professional copywriter. So you kind of get it into the mood of what you want the large language model to do. And we describe the task that's going to be coming later. And once we have the system prompt in place, then we can start having that conversation with the large language model.
And
so yeah.
question, Yannic, before we move on from Jessica, for the raw text input, is there an option to use voice?
It depends on the browser actually, but there are native browser features that would be actually the best way of getting voice in here. But yeah, it depends is the answer. It's also obviously a data processing and privacy issue where exactly that voice is processed. Yeah, so Timothy's gonna here ask me for going on holiday for Costa Rica, but the style in which we want this to sound is, so we've loaded in the book of Genesis as a style reference. And so we'll see what comes up, because Timothy obviously wants to be very, authoritative towards me. What we'll do is we'll go actually to the second workflow that is prepared. We call this pardon the interruption. So the pardon the interruption workflow is, and we will not build this because this is a lot more involved. But we have some lawyer inquiry. Hey, have we ever done this and this before, right? And now what maybe the knowledge management team or whoever is receiving that email would need to do is would need to go and search all kinds of things internally or write emails around or remember. So we'll build an agent to handle this for us. So the first thing the agent's going to do is actually to analyze and plan what it's going to do, because this is a lengthy process. Actually, maybe we can just start the workflow before we even go, so that we can discuss while we're going along here. So my question is going to be, are you aware of any examples of a private equity seller agreeing to a lockup with respect to the stock of a public company that it is getting as purchase price or merger consideration? So you can see that we're having a search and we have a few different criteria. So the first thing the agent's going to do is actually make a plan. So the plan that it comes up with, it says, okay, I will look for the following criteria. The document must involve a private equity seller, must pertain to lockup agreement, must involve stock of a public company, and must address the stock received as a purchase price or merger consideration. I can make changes to the plan here, but I'll confirm. And off we go. So what's happening in the background is we made a plan and we first confirmed that with the user. So you can see the first use of tool usage, right? We use, sorry for the wording, but we use the human as a tool in order to get feedback here on this plan. And then we're going to search for relevant information. And here is the second example of tool use. So the second example of tool use is we're actually going to the search engine. So the agent is going to search on our behalf because it can read data way faster than we can read data. So what typically a human would do painstakingly sifting through documents, we're going to let an agent do. Go to the search engine, find relevant data, and our search engine is obviously pointed at internal data of the firm, find relevant data, and then deeply analyze these search results using a large language model to do so. And crucially, then we can make a decision. So now we come to this autonomous part. We can make a decision. Are the search results already satisfying enough given all the criteria? Because if not, what we can do is actually refine and expand. So we can go back and we can search again. And if we go back to our workflow, we can see that we've already searched quite a number of times, and we go back and we refine our search query and we analyze more data. So this agent autonomously decides whether or not to keep searching and how to change its search query in order to find more and more information so that it could be fitting. So we can go back and we can refine, and if we're happy, then obviously we can formulate that final answer. So that's what we're seeing here in this section. And this should be done in, if we time this correctly, this should be done in about a couple of seconds here and give us a final answer. So hopefully you can see how this is ultimately quite useful, because like if it's about sifting through large amounts of data combined with the search engine, these systems can be a huge boost in terms of, you know, just what's possible in a given amount of time. Maybe while this is running, we can.
Yannic,
yeah.
Hi. There's a question. Is there a second human validation in the refine and expand step? So that picture that you had of a human validating the first step, is there actually a human in the second step to refine what's on screen, that second search language?
You can always give feedback to the results.
Yeah, so this will be obviously give, you could build in a human in the evaluation loop if you wanted to, right? The whole point of the Workflows platform is that you can actually go in and change it and really adjust it to what you want. So here we can see that we indeed found a few agreements that match this. And what we do always is we always go back to the we always link back exactly to where the information came from, so as to make sure, or to give the user a good idea that this is actually coming from real data. And in your case, that would be from your internal data. Now we can do the last thing that I've mentioned in terms of agents. We can put them together and let them work with each other. In this case, we're doing it by hand. So I'm going to send this workflow to the chat, and I'm going to say, please write this up as a report to management. And this is going to take what the last agent did and reformulate it. So this is more in the sense of prompting. But then we're going to send this to the last agent, and that last agent is going to make this into a PowerPoint presentation. So I can now take this and say, create a PowerPoint presentation. And also here, the good thing about customizability is that you can decide how that presentation is created, and you can build in so that directly your company branding, your company template is used in order to as a final output. So this should take 1 second. I'll have an example here. I will open that, and let's see if you can actually see this. Right. So here you see we have our company branding, and we have a presentation on the on our little report that we made. So By the way, this data here is all, we collected this from public. This is not internal data of anyone. This is a mock law firm, so to say, but so as not to scare anyone. But yeah, so hopefully you can see how kind of like building out these agents and then having them or letting them work together either by hand or by, you know, autonomously is a very powerful recipe. Okay, so what we'll do now is we have actually a contest. We'll go into the breakout rooms, and your goal is to come up with ideas of workflows. And we have a contest prepared, and there's a grand prize, and the grand prize is a 5K spa weekend. You choose with whom, you choose where to go, and we'll make it happen. The top voted ideas, so there's a website where you can submit ideas and other people can vote on the ideas. I'll show this in a second again. And the top voted ideas will go to the skills board, and they will decide on the best idea amongst them. So we have no decision power in this. You're free to be nice to us, but it won't help you. This is all done by skills, and they will select the best workflow, the best agentic workflow idea among the top voted ones. And you can win a spa weekend, or you can win, we have some runner-up gift cards. The polls do stay open even after the seminar for quite a while. So a couple of weeks, you still have time to submit and to vote. All right, I'll show this again afterwards. So we'll now dive into breakout rooms. We'll divide you up into groups. There is hopefully a person from DeepJudge in every room. Maybe you are too many people, but we'll see. But for sure, the goal is please discuss on good ideas of agents, and maybe don't give your best ones away, but would be interesting for you to come back with a few recognitions on also what other people think, and maybe you can give some joint ideas. Sorry, I'll hand it over to the skills organizer to ship people into breakout rooms. What happened was the following. We did have, obviously, we prepared, and by we prepared means we tried this before, and we played around. So there's two Write Like Me workflows, one we built before and one we built now. And we chose the one we built before, which had a mistake. And it turns out the one that Timothy made was actually quite a good one all along. So let's try it. Timothy would like to go on holiday to Costa Rica. So you can see at the same time, multiple things here are happening. We're going to use the one LLM to describe the style. We're going to use the other one to extract the quotes from the book of Genesis that are the most typical. And Timothy spake unto me and said, I desire to journey unto the land of Costa Rica, to sojourn therein for the space of 2 weeks. May it be so. With gratitude I remain. And that's the Write Like Me workflow.
That is fantastic, Yannic. There was a question about that from Alan, which was to avoid having to upload files each time, is there a way to store a library of sorts of uploaded materials?
Absolutely, yeah. So this is where the rest of our tooling comes in. So as said, we have a fully fledged enterprise search engine that is connected to the internal data of, you know, firms. So you can use any of the documents that you find here. You can also manage collections and upload things and so on, and you can very easily ship those over to the workflows, and also I can very easily move documents, store documents that I find, and so on, or my previously uploaded one. So this is obviously where the rest of the system comes in, but we've just for simpleness. Yeah.
And related question from Jennifer, can we also get external signal? Can we monitor some web or websites or newsletters and then do something with them?
So the agents can make network requests. So that means they can get information from external. You have to allow this as an organization, but they can get information from external to the inside, or push information from and to other internal systems that you have. So with that, almost anything is possible. Not everything, but many things in terms of getting outside information in and so on is possible. But that being said, we are mostly focused on connecting to internal data and making sense out of internal data.
Mhm. Great.
So sort of closing thoughts right here. Some real world examples that we have encountered for workflows are, you can maybe see these here. Won't go through all of them, but sort of analyzing breakup fees for certain kinds of agreements, making checklists based on past checklist of similar deals, doing risk factor analysis, running emails through communication guidelines of the firms, and so on. All of these things kind of exhibit some kind of very good to be connected to the past work and to the internal data, but also very good to be able to customize these for your organization. So these are largely also ideas that we have developed together with organizations to meet their specific needs and their specific demands. I believe that is it from our side. If there are other questions around, we are obviously super happy to take them. Just on the right-hand side, you see here the whole system that we have. So we connect to all the internal data. We pull that together into single unified access point, which is the search engine. And the search engine has all of the things built in, like access permissions, ethical walls, and so on. We can enforce all of that through the search engine. And on top of that, we can build these applications, we can build these agents, and they have a much better position being on top of the search engine, because all of that data governance is just in place and all of that data access. So that's our why we build things this way.
Thank you so much. We're at time. We're gonna send, when we send the email with the presentation, we're also gonna send a link to the site to submit your ideas. This is your way to get your weekend spa and other rewards. In the chat now, you also have a link for feedback. And if you can let us know what you like and didn't like and what else you like. Reminder, the skills summer seminar goes until ILTA. Some of you said you want other topics, so on the website skills.law/seminars, you could submit those ideas or invite the other speakers to submit. This is an opportunity for us to get closer with the vendor community for educational purposes, which this was a fantastic example of. So thank you so much, and we'll see you all at the ILTA party when we know who is the winner.
Thank you so much.